It usually doesn't start with a fight. It starts in a tiny moment you almost miss, like the way she says, "It's fine," while looking everywhere except at you, or the way the room suddenly feels colder, even though nothing obvious happened. You're sitting there replaying the last 10 minutes in your head, trying to figure out which sentence landed wrong, why her energy changed, why the connection that felt easy an hour ago now feels like it's hiding behind glass. And in that moment, your mind goes straight to the same brutal questions. What did I do? Why does this keep happening? Why does it feel like one wrong move changes everything? Is she pulling away? Am I supposed to fix this? Am I the problem? Here's the truth most guys never hear. She's usually not testing whether you can impress her. She's testing whether she is safe with you when things stop being easy. That changes everything. You're not failing at love. This is not proof that you chose the wrong person. And honestly, man, every real relationship reaches moments like this, where the unspoken stuff beneath the surface finally starts asking to be seen. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the 7 most common ways she tests for emotional safety, presence, and consistency. And more importantly, how to respond in a way that builds connection instead of pushing her further away. Let's get into it. Most couples believe relationship tests are games. But the real truth is, a lot of what looks like testing is actually a nervous system looking for safety. That's the part nobody explains. Most men are taught to think she's checking your confidence, your status, your edge, your ability to stay unbothered. But in real relationships, especially once feelings get real, your partner's nervous system is reading you before her mind can catch up. She is not just listening to your words. She is scanning your tone, your consistency, your patience, your ability to stay emotionally available when the moment gets uncomfortable. Because when safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. And then it comes out sideways, through distance, through little complaints, through questions that sound small but aren't small at all, through moments where she seems withdrawn, reactive, confusing, or hard to read.
Bro, that's not always manipulation. A lot of the time, it's protection. Not mind reading, not perfect lines, not some fake alpha calm, but real steadiness. That's what passes the test. Attachment science makes this so clear. When someone has felt dismissed, abandoned, criticized, or emotionally alone before, they stop trusting words first. They trust patterns. They trust whether you turn toward them or away from them, whether you get defensive or curious, whether you stay present or build walls. So if you only respond to the surface behavior, you'll miss what she feels underneath it. But here's what changes everything. When you start responding to the fear, the longing, and the unspoken need beneath the behavior, the whole cycle begins to shift. This isn't a communication hack. This is what emotional maturity actually looks like in love. And once you see that, these signs stop feeling random. They start making perfect sense. Number 1, the pullback test. Most couples panic when one person gets quiet. They chase, they overtalk, they demand answers, or they get cold right back and let the distance grow teeth. Most people in relationships assume withdrawal means disinterest, but a lot of the time, it means someone is overwhelmed and trying to protect themselves before they say something they can't take back. That's the deeper truth. When she pulls back, her nervous system may be asking one question. What happens when I'm not easy to be around? If she feels disappointed, hurt, or emotionally flooded, she may not have language yet. She just knows something inside her has tightened. And now she's watching. Not for perfection, for steadiness, for presence, for whether you can stay grounded without crowding her or abandoning the connection. Here's what that sounds like in real life. The disconnecting version sounds like this. Why are you acting weird? Can you just say what your problem is? If you're mad, then be mad. The connecting version sounds like this. You got quiet. I'm here. If you need a minute, I'll respect that. And if you want to talk, I'm not going anywhere. Feel the difference. One response makes her feel managed. The other makes her feel safe enough to come back on her own. And when you do that, her silence stops feeling like rejection and starts becoming a bridge back to connection. Number 2, the small thing test. Here's the part no one talks about. A lot of relationship pain enters through a tiny door.
Most couples get stuck arguing over the surface issue, the text that sounded dry, the plan you forgot to confirm, the dish in the sink, the joke that felt slightly off. Most couples treat these moments like overreactions, when in reality, they're usually emotional symbols carrying something much bigger. Because the small thing is rarely the real thing. What she feels underneath it is often, do I matter enough for you to notice? That's why what sounds like criticism to you may actually be longing in disguise. Her nervous system isn't reacting to a cup on the counter. It's reacting to a pattern, to the feeling that she has to keep signaling for consideration instead of resting inside it. And this is where men fail the test without realizing it. The disconnecting version. It's not that serious. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I said I was sorry. What else do you want? The connecting version. Okay, this isn't just about the cup. You wanted to feel considered. I can see how that landed as me not really thinking about you. That response changes the emotional temperature instantly, because her brain is quietly registering, he actually heard what this was really about. And that's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. 3. The boundary test. When she tells you no, pay attention. Most couples don't realize how much trust is built in moments of disappointment. Most people in relationships think attraction is strongest when they get what they want. But emotional safety is actually built when one person says no and the other person stays respectful, warm, and real. That's huge. Because when she sets a boundary, she's often watching whether your care has conditions attached to it, whether your charm disappears when access does, whether your interest becomes pressure the second she stops being agreeable. And man, her nervous system catches that immediately. This is not about being passive. It's about being safe. Not pushing harder, not guilt-tripping, not pretending to respect her boundary while punishing her emotionally, but actually honoring it. Here's a real example. The disconnecting version sounds like, "Come on, don't be like that." So now it's a problem? Wow, okay. The connecting version sounds like, "Got it.
No pressure.
I want this to feel good for both of us, so I respect your no." That lands differently, because something in her is saying, I don't have to fight to be safe with him. And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. 4. The emotional mess test. This is where it gets really interesting. Most couples know how to love each other when both people are calm, cute, and easy. But real intimacy gets revealed when one person is overwhelmed, messy, tired, triggered, or not making sense yet. Most couples want connection, but they only know how to hold it in its polished form. That's not enough. Because when she cries, spirals, shuts down, or struggles to explain what she feels, she may not be testing your problem solving. She may be testing your capacity. Your ability to stay present without fixing, minimizing, or getting irritated that her feelings are inconvenient. What looks like too much is often just someone finally no longer hiding. And here's what nobody explains. Being emotionally available is not a technique. It's an identity. It's the difference between a man who needs emotions to be neat so he can stay comfortable and a man who can stay steady while someone he loves is having a human moment. Your nervous system in conflict is like a smoke detector. It cannot always tell the difference between emotional intensity and actual danger, so it sounds the alarm either way. If you react from that alarm, you add fire. If you regulate yourself, you become the calm in the room. Here's the contrast. The disconnecting version, you're overthinking. Calm down. I can't talk to you when you're like this. The connecting version, you don't have to be neat with me. I'm listening. Take your time. I'm still here. That's powerful. Because what's moving through her is, I don't have to perform being okay to be loved. And that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. 5. The future test. When she asks where this is going, don't call it pressure too quickly. Most couples play it cool for too long. They keep things vague. They avoid clarity because they think mystery keeps attraction alive. But ambiguity is not mystery when feelings are involved. Ambiguity is stress. It keeps the nervous system braced. It makes connection feel beautiful one day and unstable the next. And she feels that. So when she asks, "What are we doing?" or "Where do you see this going?" or even says it more subtly through comments about commitment, consistency, or long-term plans,
She's often not asking for some perfectly mapped out future. She's asking whether your words can hold weight, whether your presence is real, whether she can relax into this connection or keep one foot emotionally out the door. That matters more than most men realize. The disconnecting version sounds like, why do we have to define everything? Can't we just go with the flow? You're overcomplicating it. The connecting version sounds like, you matter to me. I don't want you guessing where you stand with me. Here's what I'm building, and here's whether I see you in it. That is leadership. Not domination, not vague charm, not avoiding the conversation so you can keep control, but clarity. Because beneath the surface, what she may be thinking is, can I actually put my heart here, or am I standing on ice? And when you answer that with honesty, clarity doesn't kill connection. It gives connection somewhere solid to stand. 6. The consistency test. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Big moments impress people. Small patterns make them trust you. Most couples think relationships drift because something dramatic happened. But usually, drift is slow, quiet, accumulated. It forms like scar tissue over 100 little moments that never got repaired. A promise half kept. A text not answered. A plan not followed through on. An apology with no changed behavior after it. That's why she watches the little things. If you say you'll call, do you call? If you say you understand, do your actions change? If you say you care, does your presence match it when it costs you something? Most people in relationships overvalue chemistry and undervalue reliability. But your nervous system does the opposite. It trusts what repeats. This is not sexy advice. It's better than sexy. It's real. Here's the contrast. The disconnecting version. My bad, I've just been busy. You know how I am. I didn't think it mattered. The connecting version. I said I'd do it, so I did. I know this matters to you, and I want my actions to match my words. You shouldn't have to keep checking whether I mean what I say.
That lands deep, because her brain is quietly registering, he actually heard me this time. And this is how connection gets rebuilt. This is how cycles begin to break. This is how drift gets interrupted before it hardens into distance you can feel across the room. 7. The repair test. This is the final one. And honestly, it may be the most important. Most couples think the argument is the problem. But the real truth is, the relationship usually lives or dies in what happens after the argument. Most people in relationships focus on who was right, who was louder, who started it, who shut down first. But none of that determines long-term intimacy the way repair does. Repair is everything. Because conflict itself does not destroy connection. Lack of repair does. When there's tension, raised voices, shutdown, defensiveness, or emotional distance, her nervous system is not just reacting to the rupture. It's watching what comes next. Do you go cold? Do you pretend nothing happened? Do you force normal too quickly because discomfort makes you impatient? Or do you come back with ownership, humility, and real presence? Not the perfect apology, not flowers after a bad night, not acting extra sweet so you can skip accountability, but repair. That's what changes everything. The disconnecting version sounds like, can we just move on? I already said sorry. You do this too, you know. The connecting version sounds like, I didn't like how I showed up there. You didn't deserve that tone from me. Next time, I'm going to pause instead of firing back, because I care more about us than winning that moment. That creates safety fast. Because what she feels in that moment is, maybe this relationship can survive the hard parts without me feeling alone in them. And that's when love stops feeling fragile and starts feeling resilient. That's when the relationship stops being two people protecting themselves and starts becoming two people turning toward each other on purpose. So if you really take this in, this is not about getting better at handling her. It's about becoming the kind of man whose presence creates safety, whose words carry weight, whose patterns build trust, and whose emotional steadiness makes love feel real instead of confusing. These are not tricks. They are not hacks. They are not performances. They are the early signs of emotional maturity. And when you bring that into a relationship, she feels the difference before you even explain it. This isn't a checklist. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop reacting from ego and start responding from presence. To stop trying to win the moment and start protecting the connection. To stop asking, how do I pass her tests?
and start becoming someone who naturally does because you've built something deeper than charm. Because here's the truth. The moment she no longer has to test whether she's safe with you is the moment love finally gets room to breathe. If this hit you in a real way, drop a comment with presence below. And if you want more videos that actually explain what's happening beneath the surface in modern relationships, subscribe and stay close. If you want, I can also turn this into